So Curtis Blades has come out and said that he's happy to be the number 3 heavyweight behind John Jones. I will take Curtis's word for it. I haven't the foggiest idea if he's ranked number 3. He might have made that up. I don't know. I would have no way to know. I don't know what anybody's ranked, and I don't know how to find out. I'm aware that's out there, guys. Don't think you have to correct. I know what a Google search is. But that is quite literally what I would have to do. I don't know if that sits at ESPN.com. I don't know if that's at SportsIllustrated.com. I don't know if that's carried and recognized by both. I just don't know. So Curtis says that he's ranked number 3, and then he stated behind John Jones. I would challenge Curtis on that. I do not believe there's any official ranking anywhere that would include any athlete who's never competed in the division. That's how I believe it to be. I do not believe that John Jones is ranked number 2 at heavyweight. But Curtis said that he was, so I'm operating off of that assumption. Guys, let me ask you a real serious question. Have you ever seen a gentleman who you deem to be a liar elected the president of the United States? And I'm not asking you left or right. Have you ever seen anyone that you deem to be a liar elected the president of the United States? Whoever's holding the microphone or whatever their message they're giving is the message. They're the one with all the power. And I bring you that example of politics just because I know it's one that you will understand and be able to relate to. I don't go fact check them. I take them at their word. Could be an error by me as a voter. It could be. But it's still the way I vote, and I think it's something that you guys would look at as well. That if they're out there saying it and they know that they would be caught lying, that they're more than likely telling the truth, or there's some kind of room for error. I think a lot of you probably would relate to that. I have the foggiest idea if Curtis is ranked number 3, and I don't have anywhere that I can go find out that I know. It's a level of research that I'm not willing to do. As a fan, I'm just not willing to do that. There was something on the Underground Forum as recently as today declaring that Ngannou is the most underrated heavyweight in the UFC. And I'm kind of looking at that, scratching my head going, he's a number 1 contender. How underrated could you be? This is his second time returning to number 1 contendership, evident of the fact that it's his second time that he will be fighting for the world championship. And to call somebody underrated who's ranked number 1 is a little bit baffling. And to act as though you should put more praise on the single most one-dimensional athlete to have ever fought for a championship in the modern era is baffling to me. I'm not against a one-dimensional guy, by the way. I come from the old school that the basics win championships. I come from the old school that will show you Mike Tyson, who bobbed and weaved and threw 2 punches and won world championships. By the way, everybody knew that it was coming. I think that's a cool thing. I like somebody like Babe Ruth who will walk to the mound and tell you where he's going to put the ball. I don't like the fighters that try to be secretive. I find it annoying. This is a personal statement, but I find it annoying. Where the cameras come in for a training footage and they don't show it. Or somebody's breaking down their warm-up in the locker room and they're worried the other side is going to see it. I just think that's way overthought. I like the Mike Tyson. Here's what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to hit you with an uppercut and I'm going to hurt you very badly. And then make the other guy sit and dwell and change his entire training camp about how he's going to deal with said uppercut. Make him change to you. I like that. I like that school of thought. I see a success in that. And I see an honor in it. I bring that to you because I'm not putting Francis down. I just want to make that very clear. I'm not putting him down. But to act as though somebody is underrated who's ranked number 1, and who acts as though we should be putting more praise on a guy who has one dimension. He has one way to win and one way that he's ever won, which is either a left or a right hand, but it is Western boxing, make no mistake. You also come in saying you're underrated an individual who goes into every single fight with a meaningful advantage. Francis has fought guys he is outweighed by 50 pounds. There is not a man walking this earth that I would even need to train for or prepare for or spend one night's sleep laying in bed awake that I outweigh by 50 pounds. I mean, in all fairness, it was the same argument and problem that Brock Lesnar had. Brock used to come in and all these fighters were scared. I'm going, well, I knew Brock way back when. I knew him in the amateur wrestling days. You want to talk about he's a national champion. I happened to be there the night he won the championship. He beat a guy named Wes Hand from Iowa, and Brock did it in double overtime. By the way, should I mention, Brock barely made weight, and Wes Hand weighed 220 pounds. Which means Brock Lesnar had 50 pounds of muscle on a guy. The mere fact that he had to go into overtime, let alone 2 overtimes, is not a compliment to Brock's skills. It is flashing a light on the skills and the lack thereof. And there is only one weight class in the world where you can have such a remarkable size discrepancy and allow the match to happen. But the guy that gave up 50 pounds and went into double overtime with the other guy, that's the real winner there. That's the one who very clearly showed that he was much better. I bring that to you just to point out the reality. Francis is extremely one-dimensional, who, by the way, has a meaningful size advantage over just about everybody that he's ever faced. And I realize you're going to bring the Rosen strikes to me. You're going to bring the overeems. I get it. I don't need your examples. I'll shove them right back up your ass by showing you examples of guys that could have been light heavyweight, but they weren't. And by the way, I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with the ridiculousness of the statement that Francis is underrated when he's rated number 1. Not only rated number 1, he is an over a 2-to-1 favorite. Just about 2.5 to 1 favorite to beat Stipe Miocic. What part of these numbers do you feel is disrespecting the guy? Because there's other numbers that I could throw back at you. 5 of them. Rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 where Stipe dominated him. So there's not a lack of respect somewhere, but there is a real lack of reality in some of those claims. And when I come back and I listen to Curtis, I trust Curtis is telling me the truth. He had the microphone. And I'm not willing to go and do another level of research. I watched his interview, and I followed it by watching another interview, and I followed that by making another one. At no point do I stand down to go to the internet to verify something he said. He said he's ranked number 3. And he said he's happy with that. And he's saying that John should get the opportunity over him. I trust all of those things. I just can't help but wonder why. Says who? Whose narrative is it out there that we're going to follow? Who gets to make this decision? Who is creating the story that we're all pawns in the game? I shouldn't say we're all bringing myself into it. I don't have a goddamn thing to do with this. I would not live my life that way. I certainly wanted to lead my career that way. I don't wake up any day and let somebody else tell me where I'm going to be. And believe me, there's a number of people that tell me where I'm going to be. I don't accept it. Then we're going to fight. I am going to fight back. I'm going to scratch and claw. I'm going to manipulate. I'm going to strategize. And if I'm not smart enough to think of an idea, I'm going to call somebody, including if they're on the payroll. Including if it's an advisor that I have to write a check to. That is an investment that I'm willing to make to not accept the narrative created by somebody else. Today's narrative is created by Curtis himself, who says he's number 3, who says John Jones deserves a shot over him. I have no choice but to accept that. And I'm all for it if Curtis, by the way, I'm all for it if Curtis is actually ranked number 6 and there's 3 guys in front of him. I'm all for him coming out, bumping those other 2 guys and making himself number 3. And making himself next after John Jones. I'm applauding the performance, but something tells me that's not what happened. I do not find it cute or funny at all if a politician were to come out and lie and do it in the name of votes. I don't in the least, but a performer is out to entertain. None of us are going to scold, okay? none of us are going to scold Martin Scorsese for telling some details in the movie Casino inappropriately. None of us are going to be mad at the writer of Pulp Fiction because something went out of order. We were there to be entertained. They promised to entertain us, and the entertainer did. So where it is that we are going to go by the facts and be the hard line and be the voice of reason that never, who wrote the number down? Why would you possibly be accepting of a ranking if you don't agree with that ranking? I don't know who's beat Curtis Blades. I'd have to go back and search. I cannot remember Curtis losing a fight aside from Francis Ngannou. I just don't remember that. Even if it happened, I don't remember it. But let's say somebody wrote that down in some room. And by the way, they're going to have to live with somebody because whoever does these rankings or a group of people or one person, they have never identified themselves to us. They have never once been identified as the board or the director or the head of. So why would you accept what they wrote down somewhere and got posted onto the media somewhere? Why would you possibly accept it if it didn't fit your narrative? Who is it that's creating these stories? I had a fighter, it wasn't all that long ago, but he had lost a fight. And so the media went to him after he lost the fight, said, who do you want to fight next? He said, I'm in no position to call somebody out I just lost. Says who? Who made that rule? Who made that rule? I remember one of the great losses that I've seen, but it was Rampage Jackson had lost to John Jones. He's standing in the ring and they went to him and said, what'd you think? And John goes, man, that kid's good. I thought he was hype. Shogun, I want to fight you again. And the whole story was changed. And when Rampage got to the press conference that night, nobody asked him about John Jones or what it was like to lose the championship. They asked him about his fight with Shogun. The second one fight ends, the marketing for the next fight begins. It's very baffling to see somebody willing to live their life under a narrative of a person, a group of people that are unnamed coming up with this rankings business just by one example. And the rankings is not the hill that I want to die on. I don't mean to keep coming to you guys and harping about the rankings. It's just one of these issues where we have to go through waves with fighters, right? You guys remember the money fight era when every fight, what fight do I want the money fight? Like somebody said that and it was cute. It was some kind of a thing. And then we went through the champ era, which we're still living in. And now we're going in. I mean, it just gets really weird. We're in this rankings era right now. There is no story in life that you should accept if you don't like the story. It's a large part of what fighting is about. Fighting to set the record straight. Fighting for your ego. Fighting for your reputation. Fighting for what it is you want versus what other people want in a like-minded field who, by the way, are working just as hard as you are. It's not always fair. But for you to show up at the table and want as much as you can take from, that is what the game is. And it's very above board. It's quite literally what it is. There's no dishonor in that. There is a dishonor in not going after that. So somebody apparently has written the Curtis Blades story. Apparently they wrote it for him and he's read it and he accepted it. Apparently, at least in the short term. I view Curtis differently. I view him as a man of courage who went and fought Ngannou not once, but twice and is trying to do it a third time. I see Curtis Blades as a main eventer because I have seen him in main events before. I know that he has won collegiate national championships. Do you guys know that? Did you know that this man was a national champion in his collegiate days? You probably didn't. Because whoever wrote the story that Curtis is choosing apparently had an eraser at the other end and left it out. Apparently, he has to stand down to John Jones, who, by the way, won the exact same national championship that he won. That seems like a compelling story to me. That seems like a story that he should have wanted to tell. Seems like a compelling story that might want to get those guys together. But whoever's in charge of writing the story of Curtis Blades' life apparently didn't tell it that way. I get very confused as to why you would accept it. Not to mention, by the way, stories change. They're called chapters. Have you ever read a book? And the really good stories have a swerve at the end, something you never saw was coming. Where's your creativity on that? It's one of these things. I'm only going to fight guys ranked in front of me. Well, what does Usman do? What does Stipe do? What's Amanda Nunes do? Just lose all motivation? Well, no, it doesn't count for them because they're the champion. Why would it not count for them? These are the rules that you just said. You said you only fight people that are ranked in front of you, or this wasn't worth your time. Well, I didn't mean it when I was a champion. Why? Why not? Why didn't you include that? Possibly because your mind never actually got there. Your mind never actually believed that you could be the champion. You would never follow a rule set of I will only fight people ranked in front of me if you had a championship mindset. Because you'd be well aware once you get to where it is you're trying to go, which is the championship, you don't have anybody in front of you. You got to go the other way. It would never truly cross your mind. Not to mention, it's a dumb thing to want anyway. The only thing that you should ever want in this sport, and if you had the sense that God gave geese, you would know this on day one. I want the largest paycheck in front of the biggest crowd against the smallest opponent who I'm most likely to beat. That's who I want to fight. That's who I want to fight every single night. I want the best him. I hope you have the best training camp, man. I want the absolute best version of him. Why? Because I want to say that I beat him at his best. Who are you going to say it to? Who are you going to say that to? Well, I just want the world to know. For how long? Until next Saturday when we do this all over again and somebody else is in the main event? We're not even going to remember that you did this, and if you think it goes the other way, do you think that's part of the story is going to be told? Well, we won the championship tonight, but we were told that the training camp was not the best for his opponent. When has anybody ever been said like that? Whoever is holding the microphone has the power, and you got to give that thing back. You're not going to have that power for long. So that's where it comes in. Do I want to start saying this about this guy? Because then he's going to get the mic. He might bounce it back on me. Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe I'm not afraid to take the hits, but that's where the calculation comes. I watched Usman get a fight with George Masvidal in 45 seconds on a microphone Saturday. I watched that happen. You can't tell me it didn't. I watched another gentleman get a date with Miley Cyrus in his 45 seconds on the microphone. You can't tell me it didn't. Now, that's a pretty big spectrum. And the only thing that those two athletes had in common is they had a platform, they had a microphone, and they had people listening. I don't know. Usman beat Burns. I don't know what Burns was ranked. I just don't know. He's top contender. The gentleman who asked out Miley Cyrus, I don't know what he was ranked or the person he beat. I don't know if he moved up or he moved down. I don't know. I didn't know then. I won't know now. As far as I'm concerned, there's no way to find out. I don't know. But this business isn't a story about going back into the past. It is about what can I serve right now and what is next. It seems to be very tough to get some guys in line with this. And it gets tough because their managers don't know. Your managers don't know how to run a career. They're pretty good at knowing where a fax machine is. They're pretty good at getting things scanned. They're pretty good at the dates and the signatures. There's a place for them, man. They earn their money for sure. But if you have a team and you do not have a creative partner on the team, then your money's going in the wrong direction. And I will tell you that right now. If you do not have a creative component, and maybe it's not you, maybe artist isn't really something that you do, that's okay. That's okay, but I cannot encourage you any stronger or in any clearer of words to go out and find that person. I have a lot of fighters that reach out to me. You want to know what happens when they do? I answer every single one of them, all of them. I never out them. I would never expose the business. I would never come to you guys and go, well, I'm the one that gave them that. Never. And you want to know something else? I've had people I've had to go to. I was on the set of The Ultimate Fighter 3 in Brazil. Great moment for me. I mean, The Ultimate Fighter was a real honor. So you might hear me reference that a lot, but that was a big honor for me. And I was in a jam. I did not know what to do. They wanted me killed over there for one. So where I went was a little bit tough, and how I went about things was a little bit tough. And right when I got there, Vanderlei Silva really dug his feet in the ground. And on day one, he was demanding an apology. And if I don't apologize, he's leaving. Well, now the show's done. Millions of dollars, it would be done. And it got to the point where the head of production came to me and goes, Mick, could you please give him this apology? And I wasn't one of to damn with everything, and I'll never say I'm sorry. It wasn't one of those situations. I mean, Vanderlei had some real power here. I only share that story with you because we had a real back and forth the whole time, and I did not know how to handle it. Of all the ways I saw this playing through in my head, never once was Vanderlei going to make me and bully and victimize me. Because if he bullies and victimizes me, he makes me sympathetic. If he makes me sympathetic, he makes me liked. I don't want to be liked. I don't want to be sympathetic. I am the bad guy. You, Vanderlei, are the white knight. You are the one that is here to save the honor. That's the way the story is. Never once did I imagine that would get turned, and I didn't want it turned. I did not want this I didn't want this put back on me. I had a very clear role to play. I didn't know what to do. I called Paul Heyman. I had never met Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is in The Advocate for Brock Lesnar, to use for an example, the owner and founder and writer and creator of ECW. I knew he was a brilliant mind. I was in a foreign land. I didn't have his number. I had never met him, but I didn't know what to do. And I knew I needed a brilliant mind. And I called Paul Heyman, and he took the call, and I said, Paul, I am on the set of The Ultimate. This is Chael Sonnen. I fight in the UFC. Have you heard of me? Yes. I am on the set of The Ultimate Fighter. It is a reality TV show. Vanderlei Silva is flipping the script on me, and I don't know what to do. And Paul Heyman said, shoot on the son of a bitch. That's a quote. I said, elaborate on what you mean. Shoot is where you tell the truth. Shooting is very rare in the world of professional wrestling, right? It's all storytelling. So bring the audience along. It's dangle this something, promote this angle, work this, put this guy over. It's one of these things. Shoot, to teach you that vernacular, is where you're straight. It's straight up. My name is Terry Bollea, not my name is Hulk Hogan. By example, that would be called a shoot. He said, shoot on the son of a bitch. I said, tell me what you mean. He said, go and confront him and tell him everything that you just told me. Tell him why he needs to be the good guy. Tell him that you are the bad guy. Tell him by what he is doing is going to ruin the show and that you only flew out here to be the bad guy in this show. Shoot on him. Level with him straight. I don't mean to tell this story to bring up old grudges between Vanderlei and I. Hope Vanderlei is having a wonderful life. I think he hopes the same of me, but there was a major lesson learned there. There's a time to perform. There is a time to entertain, and there's a time where you've got to shoot on the son of a bitch. But if you don't have the creativity to deal with some of these situations, you should be smart enough to know when you need help. Just like when you didn't know how to throw a jab, so you went and got a trainer. Or just like when you didn't know Muay Thai, so you went and got a coach. Or just like when you weren't in good enough shape, but you went and found somebody that could help to get you there. You need to have a creative arm. And if you ever find yourself sitting at your kitchen table, now the kitchen table is a figurative expression, meaning if you're sitting around your inner circle, the people that you trust, and you find your more trusted guys talking about, you need to fight this guy and beat this guy because of his ranking, and it will elevate you. If that's the conversation you find yourself in, stop. Stop. Go out and compete. Get the win. Grab the microphone. You write the story. You decide what the narrative is. You decide what that victory meant. If you're number 4 and you go out and fight number 11, you grab that microphone and you explain why beating number 11 should move you to number 1. And believe me, we will all be captivated to hear. I will look forward to hearing your math on why you're number 4 and you just beat number 11, but that should move you to number 1. And believe me, if you look hard enough, you will find the answer. Because the number 1 guy fought the number 11 guy, and they went all 5 rounds, and I just stomped him out in 47 seconds, which means I outdid that son of a bitch, and this ranking is wrong. Whatever it is, sometimes you have to shoot